A man went hiking alone in the mountains. By the time he realized he was lost, the sun had already disappeared behind the trees. With only a dying flashlight, he stumbled across an old cabin deep in the forest. Taking shelter inside, he felt that something was strange, but he didn't realize what it was until the next morning. The mountains are beautiful during the day, endless trees stretching toward the sky, cool air drifting through the branches, and trails that wind deeper into the wilderness with every step. For most people, hiking in the mountains is peaceful. For one man, it became the most terrifying night of his life. One autumn afternoon, a hiker decided to take a trip into the mountains. He wasn't an experienced outdoorsman. In fact, he rarely went hiking alone. But something about the idea of being out in nature for a day, away from noise, away from people, felt refreshing. So we packed lightly, a backpack, some water, a flashlight just in case, and then he started the trail. For hours, everything went normal. The forest wrapped around him like a green ocean. Tall trees swayed gently in the wind. Birds called from the branches overhead. Every now and then, the trail opened to breathtaking views of the mountains stretching endlessly into the distance. It was exactly the kind of quiet he had been hoping for. 8 hours passed, almost without him noticing. But eventually, the sun began to sink, and the sky slowly shifted from bright blue to deep orange to fading gray. That's when he decided it was time to head back. 8 hours was more than enough for one day, so he turned around and started walking the trail back to his car. At least, he thought it was the trail. After about 20 minutes of walking, something began to feel wrong. The path didn't look familiar. The trees seemed different. The bends in the trail weren't the ones he remembered passing earlier. He stopped, looked around, then slowly turned in a circle. Nothing looked recognizable. A quiet feeling of panic began to creep into his chest. He told himself he must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. No big deal. Just keep walking. But the deeper he went, the darker the forest became. The sun had already slipped behind the mountains, and shadows were swallowing the trail. Soon, night completely took over. The forest became a wall of black shapes and whispering branches. He pulled out his flashlight. The narrow beam cut through the darkness in front of him, but the light wasn't strong, and the battery icon blinked weakly. Now he was truly afraid. Getting lost in the forest during the day was one thing, but being lost at night was something else entirely. The woods felt different. Every snapped twig sounded louder. Every gust of wind felt colder, and every shadow seemed like it was moving. He realized something terrifying, that there was no way he would make it back tonight. Wandering blindly through the mountain forest in the dark was dangerous. One wrong step and he could fall down a slope or wander even farther away. So he did the only thing he could. He started searching for shelter. For nearly an hour he walked through the darkness, his flashlight dimming more and more. Just when he began to think he might have to sleep against a tree, he saw something. A shape between the trees. A structure A cabin. It looked old, very old. The wood was grey and cracked from years of weather. Parts of the roof sagged slightly, and the windows were dark. It didn't look like anyone had lived there in a long time, but to him, it was a lifesaver. He approached cautiously and knocked on the door. Once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. No movement, no lights, no sound inside. After a moment of hesitation, he slowly pushed the door open. It creaked loudly as it swung inward. Inside, the cabin was strangely clean. Not perfect, but not abandoned either. Dust covered the corners of the room, but the center of the cabin was neat. And right there, in the middle of the room, was a bed. A perfectly made bed with blankets, pillows, and space for exactly one person. He hesitated. If someone lived here, he would explain. Surely whoever owned the place wouldn't mind a lost hiker sleeping for one night. And if no one lived there, then he was lucky. His exhaustion finally caught up with him. His legs ached from hours of walking. His flashlight flickered weakly. So he shut the door and lay down on the bed. But something immediately made him uneasy. The walls. They were covered in paintings, dozens of them, portraits of people, men, women, children, all staring directly toward the bed. And every single one of them was smiling. Not warm smiles, not friendly smiles, but strange, unnerving smiles that stretched too wide across their faces. Their eyes seemed almost alive in the dim light, as if they were watching him, studying him, waiting. He tried not to look at them, but no matter where he turned, their painted eyes followed him. Eventually, his exhaustion won. His eyes grew heavy. The forest outside whispered in the wind, and slowly he drifted into sleep. Morning light woke him. Soft sunlight spilled across the cabin floor. Birds chirped outside. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Then he sat up and froze. The paintings were gone. Every single one. The walls were completely bare, because they had never been paintings. They were windows. And outside, surrounding the cabin, were dozens of people, standing silently in the trees, watching him with the same wide smiles. Sometimes getting lost in the woods isn't the worst thing that can happen. Sometimes finding shelter is.